Welcome to the AFR Saints channel, where we provide you daily content on your favorite team, the New Orleans Saints. Do us a favor and hit that subscribe button. Be sure to leave your comments below and smash that like button. Who dat? So we know Jameis Winston is going to be the Saints' starting quarterback this year. What we don't know right now is who is going to be his backup. According to James Palmer of NFL Media, it appears as though that Trevor Siemian is exploring his options. He was visiting the Chicago Bears earlier this week, and today, on Thursday, Trevor Siemian was visiting the Las Vegas Raiders. So, Siemian is exploring his options, and it's pretty obvious here, right? If I said the same thing with Marcus Williams and with Teron Armstead, if a team lets their free agents go on free agent visits, it's pretty clear there's not a deal to be done. I mean, Trevor Siemian feels like he might be able to get more. This is a guy who was a 7th-round pick of Denver back in 2015. He started 24 games for Denver. This past season in New Orleans, started 4 games when Jameis tore his ACL. He's made 6 total appearances, and with mixed results. 11 touchdowns, 3 picks, completed 57% of his passes, 1,100 yards. Not terrible, but it was evident with Trevor Siemian this year that you weren't going to win with him. And he stat compiled late in games when the Saints had gotten behind, and then they'd have these furious comebacks in the fourth quarter. But you're not winning with Trevor Siemian. He is a veteran quarterback who started a lot of games and has proven to be a competent backup. But I think if you're in New Orleans, you look at it and say, okay, well, if we're not winning with this guy, like if our quarterback, if our starter's hurt, Jameis is hurt, and we're not going to win with Trevor Siemian, why is he here? And I'm not telling you he needs to be a championship caliber quarterback, but he needs to be a guy that can keep the train on the tracks while your starter's out. And Siemian wasn't really able to do that. The other part of this is you drafted Ian Book last year in the 4th round. And I'm not sitting here trying to lobby for Ian Book telling you that he's the Saints franchise. But you used a 4th-round pick on the guy. And it is reasonable to expect that Ian Book, a 4th-round pick, can be your backup quarterback. I mean, that was really the hope when you drafted Garrett Grayson out of Colorado State in the 3rd round. I mean, I don't need to remind you, Siemian was a 7th-rounder. He's become a viable NFL backup. Chase Daniel was an undrafted free agent who came in, played very well in camp, won the job as Drew Brees' backup, and allowed you to say farewell to Mark Brunell, who was Brees' backup on the Super Bowl team. It was interesting because Brees, for a lot of years, wanted that veteran backup, the guy who'd been in the NFL a long time, who knew what he's looking at. He could come to the sideline, sit on the bench. They could look at the still shots, and now the surface and all the defensive coverage, and somebody could bounce things off of. And Brunell was a guy who had been to an AFC Championship game, a lot of years as a starter in Jacksonville, and that was a good veteran presence there with Brees. And ultimately, the Saints got to the point where they said farewell to Brunell, and they trusted Chase Daniel in that role. And Daniel's now in his 13th year in the NFL. It's obviously it's odd because he's actually the role that Brunell was at the time. The guy was sort of the veteran backup now, but yeah, and still hanging around the league. He's in LA with the Chargers now. But it's time for the Saints to see if Ian Book can be that guy, not only because you invested a 4th-round pick in him, but also because you don't want to carry 3 quarterbacks on the roster, and that's not even counting Taysom Hill. So at some point, you got to make a decision. You can't just keep Siemian and Book on the roster behind Jameis, and you have 3 active quarterbacks. Every roster spot in the NFL is so valuable. You can't afford to have a guy on the active roster that's not going to contribute on Sundays. So you got to make a decision. As it says, bleep or get off the pot. Yeah, make a decision. Are you committed to Ian Book being your backup? And I think the fact that we're seeing Trevor Siemian, in Las Vegas, in Chicago, probably tells you that's the direction they're leaning, is letting Trevor Siemian walk and allowing Ian Book to win that role as the backup quarterback behind Jameis Winston this year. You got to thin out that room. You can't carry 3 active quarterbacks. Saints did it with Garrett Grayson for a minute because they didn't want to risk putting a 3rd-round draft pick on the practice squad and have him signed away. Same thing with Ian Book. Well, eventually you got to make a call, and it sounds like the Saints, or looks like anyway, the Saints are doing that right now with Ian Book. That's me reading the tea leaves right now, but I'm for it. You weren't winning anything anyway with Trevor Siemian. You got a lot invested in Book. See if he can be that guy who can be the backup quarterback, the clipboard holder, the guy that can win a roster spot. And if need be, maybe, in a pinch, step in and competently execute the offense. So we'll see where Trevor Siemian might sign. Doesn't look like it's going to be back in New Orleans and what that might mean for Ian Book. We'll keep you posted. Hey, thanks so much for watching. Please leave your comments. I love to interact. And be sure to hit the red subscribe button below.